Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a great day. Let's take a quick look here at KAS, but see what's going on. I got a lot of requests for this one recently, so I figured we'd go ahead and double check. We did short this coin previously at 93, all the way down to about the low 80-cent range. So I think 84, 83 cents we took profit. It was a nice short, but you don't just jump into a short because the price is pulling back, because there's actually a lot of volume here to support this price action. So I want to kind of touch on some important factors here. Hope you can stick around so you can learn a little something here. And we're going to start with liquidation data here first. Before we start though, hit the like button, comment below if you get a chance. What's your position on KAS? But let me know. Curious to find out. Take a look here though at 90 cents to upwards about 11 cents. That's kind of like the upper and lower resistance range because we're working ourselves into a somewhat of a channel. It's a little easier to see on the charts, but the key takeaway here is that there's a lot of liquidation between 70 and 78 cents, which I think isn't super practical to presume that's going to happen. Okay, so just keep in mind the likelihood of that happening is fairly low, but if we get closer, there is a lot of liquidation events that could occur, some longs that are going to have some problems at that point. The whole point of me mentioning that is that liquidation does work like a magnet, and when you get close to these larger ranges, it's oftentimes the price goes right into that area because of the fact that market makers like to manipulate the price action, sweep those late longs or shorts, and just reverse the price instantly. At this point, though, this is what I think is more important. You want to factor, this is a more important factor. You want to pay attention to this one because liquidation delta tells us a lot about the momentum shifting. It's kind of like a moving average convergence, divergence, a MACD, or stochastic swings. It kind of gives you an indication of where people are leveraged the most. Right now, we've shifted that delta from bearish to bullish. So in other words, instead of having 3 million in shorts, we're basically just up there at 0.5 to 1 million in longs. So it basically implies there's more people taking longs and shorts in this coin. Okay, that also implies that you should go with the grain and not try to trade against that. Okay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you just take a long right now at the tentative top. We've got a point of control we really got to pay attention to, but based on open interest, let's focus on this here first. When we see the macro open interest areas, we can see we're pretty heavy in that range right now. We're kind of smack dab in the middle of 90 cents to 10 cents. Sorry, 9 to 10 cents is that range that we're in, and that's an important range to recognize. Breaking free from that will tell us a lot about the direction we're heading. But let's talk about this here first. The point of control here, this is where the most amount of volume is in the last, 2 to 2.5 weeks worth of trading. We can see people are averaging the most at about 96 cents. We're just below that. We can presume that's going to be a resistance for us, so there's potential for the price to pull back from here. Now, would I consider a short at this point? No, because we have too much volume and we're in the middle of a range. It doesn't make a ton of sense to try to long or short at this exact level. But I'll tell you here in just a moment where I feel are going to be good considerations for longs or shorts. And at this point here, looking at the daily time frame, we're above the moving averages. This is awesome. We like to see this here. So it's basically one of those situations where we're trending positively, we're moving up in this ascending trend, and it's generally a favorable sign. Okay, so overall, we're looking good. We also got the 50-day SMA hanging out there at about 80 cents. I think 80 cents would be a perfect place to consider entry if we come back down to that level. Why is that, you ask? Well, it's a pretty solid support range for us from previous highs that were just barely retested here locally as new lows. It's usually a good sign there when you see the pivot of bounce off that level. Regardless of that fact, we can see, unlike most coins, we're hanging out above 50 in the RSI. While we're under our moving average, our money and flow index is lower. We're seeing a second stochastic swing to the downside, and MACD has officially diverged. These are generally unfavorable signs, kind of implying that further downside makes more sense. So I don't love that, even though we have a good macro structure and the price action is more likely to go higher from here. We can't be naive to think that taking a long right now as Bitcoin's pulling back is a great idea. It's just kind of the concept. But I think overall, the general sentiment here is that the macro structure is looking good. It's just that the 4-hour time frame kind of gives us a lot of indecision. Okay, and let me explain that. First of all, we're barely above 50 in the RSI. You want to wait for that to be a solid closure above first. While stochastic swinging up, money flow index is low. Okay, that just implies that there's not a lot of volume flowing in as compared to the previous 14 candles, and that's not always a good sign. When we look at MACD, though, this is converging. That's a positive momentous indicator. And if we look at the hourly time frame, the Ichimoku cloud is confirming that we haven't broke above the cloud yet. Okay, so usually when you're remaining below the cloud, that's a firm indication that we haven't broken this short-term descending trend. Okay, so I would like to see here in the next 12 hours maintaining 9.5 cents or higher, and then Bitcoin also maintaining 94,000 or higher. Because if we look at this price action, we compare it to Bitcoin, it's similar in a lot of ways. It's just that KAS found its bottom a lot sooner. And that's a good sign. That's usually a favorable sign of the upside. It's just a little premature to take a long here, especially with any kind of leverage. So it's just my personal thoughts. I do think Bitcoin may continue a bit lower to that 92K range. If that were to happen, we may see the retest this local low in the 8 to 8.5 cent range. And if so, that'd be a fantastic consideration for entry, because that would put us at a double bottom, a pretty nice looking structure there. Okay, I think it's just a little too early to take a long right now. That's just my thoughts. What are yours? Why don't you comment below? Let me know. Love to hear it. Join us over at Bitunix. Keep this in mind. This is only available till May 14th. It's a nice deposit reward bonus. Check them out. Awesome exchange link down below for that. And if you take a look at my Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, I've got like a lot of shorts coming through here as well, and people are appreciating them. So if you do too, hit the like button on that. Maybe check those out if you might, maybe that's a better situation for you. All right, folks, thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Take care out there.